on a very important tower over here. Using my cup tower. Oh, yes! And it takes lots of concentration and focus. Those are qualities that engineers use. Engineers are people that build things. And it's something that I'm doing. Yes, in engineering, you also need another special skill called math. You practice math. You practice math at home, every day on your way to school, and everything that you do. And engineers do too. In today's episode, we're going to talk about some pretty important people that deal with engineering and math. One of those people is a lady named Mae Montague. She was a very important mathematician in our Black history. Oh, yes! So as I complete this last cup, I want you to get comfy, cozy, because we're going to read a very special book about... Oh my goodness. I guess I'll just have to build it again.
We love to read!
Today we'll be reading a story called The Girl with a Mind for Math, the story of Mae Montague. Written by Julia Finley Mosca, illustrated by Daniel Riley. If there's something you want, but it seems out of reach, here's a story for you, a great truth it will teach. When you focus your mind, you will succeed through and through, like one bold engineer by the name Montague. In a state we call Arkansas, one winter day, a baby was welcomed, a girl they called Ray. She was bright as a star, super smart from the start. She was headstrong, this child, and not faint of heart. Yes, this girl had potential. Her granddad was proud. He told her, "Work hard. You'll stand out from the crowd." Then something she'd cherish. When Ray was just 7, he took her to see her first ship. It was heaven. A real submarine! Her eyes opened wide. "Who made it?" she asked as they followed the guide. "Engineers," said the man, giving Ray's head a pat. "But my dear, you don't need to know all about that." At the time, the man's insult went over her head. "No, you can't," were the words he had meant, but not said. Engineering, thought Ray, and her life's dream began, except most people laughed when she told them her plan. "Stay strong," said her mom. "Use your brains. You'll be fine. There will always be people who pay you no mind. Just because you're a girl, and just because you are Black. Don't let them or the state of your school hold you back." You see, schools in those days were what's called segregated. The Black and white students were kept separated. "That's wrong," you exclaim. It was dismal, no fooling. And worst of all, white kids received better schooling. But Ray studied hard. She had grit, taught herself. She was gifted in math and read books by the shelf. When the time came for college, she knew what to choose. She learned to build boats, but she got some bad news. "Engineering's not taught to Black students," they said. Her heart hit the floor. "I'll take business instead." She learned what she could, and she learned the rest later. Their rules were unjust, but that school wouldn't break her. Ray finished with honors. Oh boy, what a smarty. She said her farewells. There was no time to party. "I'm off to a place filled with history's greats, the capital city of all 50 states. Now, finding a job? It turned out that took time. She looked and she looked. Ray was not one to whine. Then it must have been fate. At least that's what it seems. She was hired to type where they built submarines. The Navy? That's right. Oh, but hold all your cheers. Ship designing was only for trained engineers. So she watched as they worked, and she learned every task, even studied computers. by night in a class. Then her big break arrived. The whole staff got the flu. Ray did all of her work, and the engineers is too. Her boss was in shock. How? He exploded. From memory, said Ray, and with that got promoted. Life should have been swell, yet that wasn't the case. Her boss treated her poorly because of her race. Many people, like him, tried to make her feel small. Ray just held her head high, and she outworked them all. What next? From the White House, there came a command. The president ordered a ship. Make it grand. And quickly, he added. Well, that didn't fly. All those plans would take engineers months to supply. Here's the thing about that. When designing a boat, there are thousands of measurements one needs to note. All those numbers take math, and that takes some time. But Ray had been working on something sublime. She took a deep breath. I can solve this, she said. I've come up with a system to do it instead. It'll draw the plans faster, she told them. Don't fret. I'll design the first ship by computer, no sweat. How long do you think that might take? What's your guess? Would it take her a month? Maybe weeks for success? Well, it took calculations and tons of caffeine, but Ray finished in hours, just over 18. Her program, it worked. All the blueprints were done. The ship was constructed. The engineers, stunned. You did it, they cheered, and her boss had to say that her quick mind for math had in fact saved the day. The end? No, not quite. When Ray's ship was unveiled, only white men could go, and Ray's invite not mailed. Say what? You heard right. No invite? Horrible. In fact, some might say it was downright deplorable. Yet Ray kept her cool, gave her best every day, and in time all her skills were applauded. Hooray! People learned all of her work. Who's this Ray? They demand. When they met her, they stared. They expected a man. Yes, that happened a lot. Many could not believe that a woman of color did all she'd achieved. Some even thought Ray was a maid. Sad, but true. When they ordered a drink, she'd say, "Bring me one too." All her humor and wit served her well through the years, as she battled the hard times with laughs and not tears. And that boss in the Navy who'd been so unkind made Ray the first woman to lead ship design. More honors would follow. Her fame picked up steam. And finally, at last, she accomplished her dream. The title she'd worked for, an engineer. Score! Now the world knows her feats. She is hidden no more. So, the lesson to all is don't ever give in. Take a chance. Rock the boat. If it sinks, you can swim. When a storm comes your way, hold your course and don't stress. Never quit, and like Ray, propel straight to success.
Wow, I really love that book. Ray Montague is such an inspiration for math, and I am going to put your math skills to the test. So here, I have a jar, and it's filled with candy hearts. So, I want you to use your estimation skills and guess how many hearts are in the jar. I'll let you take a look. All right, stay tuned until the end of the episode and I'm gonna reveal the answer. But until then, I have another great person I want to introduce you to. So we talked about mathematicians and how math is connected to engineering, and another important person in our history, her name is Dr. Mae C. Jemison. She was an engineer and the first African American female astronaut. I'm going to do a drawing of Dr. Mae Jemison, and you can follow along and listen to some important facts about her. Wonder how many candy hearts are in here.
Dr. Mae Jemison was born in 1956. She was an engineer, a physician, and an astronaut. When Mae was little, she loved to read, especially books about science and astronomy. When she was in kindergarten, she knew she wanted to become a scientist. She also wanted to be a dancer, and through her youth, she studied every type of dance. When she went to college, she majored in chemical engineering and African American studies. She was also inspired by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And when she saw his work, she saw that it was a call to action to help people. So after she graduated, she wanted to become a doctor. She went to West Africa and she helped nurse those that were in need. After she got back, she saw that there were big changes that were taking place at NASA. Mae had always imagined herself in space, but she didn't really know if she wanted to pursue that dream. So, in 1987, Mae became the first Black woman in the astronaut training program. And a few years later, she flew into orbit. That means that she went out of space. She went to outer space. And she was the first African American woman in space. Mae still wanted to have an impact on people, so she left NASA in 1993 and she made her own company. It's called the Jemison Group. This group researches ways technology can help people in their daily lives. Today, we share Dr. Mae Jemison's dream of how we can create and save and protect the earth that we all share.
I just love how these women have inspired me to build and create. And speaking of love, this is Love Month. And I want to show you how I took materials like this to this. But let me show you how I got there.
It's time for crafts.
Love your structure as much as I did. We got to incorporate math, engineering, and some building skills. Now, you already know what time it is. Go get your parents for a minute with parents.
And now a minute for our parents.
Welcome back, parents, to a minute that is just for you. Since we are talking about love this month, I want to touch on self-love for yourself. We need love that is outside of our kids, and when we produce that love within ourselves, we're then able to give it back to our kids and show them what that actually looks like. So for this month, I want you to practice self-love. That can be reading your favorite book. It can be going outside for fresh air, taking a run, exercising. It could even just be taking a nap. We all know we need naps every now and then, but that's loving yourself. And when your kids see that, they'll know what that looks like, and they'll be able to then show it back to you. So for this month, practice self-love, whatever that looks like to you, and let your kids show it. And that's a minute with parents. Thank you so much for joining me for today's show, friends. Now, are you ready to find out how many hearts were in this jar and if you were correct? All right. Well, if you guessed that there were 105 hearts, you were correct. Even if you didn't get that exact number, maybe you got a little close, you still did your best. Thank you again for joining me today for Hey Miss Kim, and I hope to